Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. I've been fumed heavily. I'm targeted here in Northern California by the city of San Jose in a city called Morgan Hill. And to make a long story short, the reason why people get sexually abused has to do with genetics, epigenetics, has to do with brain function, has to do with brain wiring, neuroplasticity, has to do with a lot of these sorts of things, but a huge part of it is culture. And who I am is extremely important. My identity is the most important identity in human history because I'm the top martial artist ever possible. Now, for those of you who struggle with that and you think, hey, you're thinking of Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris, you're way, way off the mark here. My tribe, the Igbos, were much more fierce than the Chinese, the white man, any group you can think of. The elite Igbo warrior force would slice through them like a hot knife through butter. Think of how the Zulus are thought of in popular culture. Now think of something that's blacker than black. It's called, some people have joked and said they're blue-black Nigerians. Now think of the most fierce and brilliant of Nigerians. This is a huge part of it because sex has a lot to do with people's conception of being a man. Right? You get the people smoking cigars or smoking a cigarette after sex with a robe in popular culture, in the cartoons or whatever. Now, when you're actually the toughest person that ever lived, you're actually the smartest person that ever lived, you're actually the most masculine in a way that is pinpointed, not because of size or hairy body or whatever silly conceptions people have, but from actual virtue and precise masculine grace from God. It's different. Now, I'm not trying to impress Lisa Phillips, Annie Farmer, or, if Virginia Guffrey was here, her, or anyone else who was a victim of Epstein's case here. This is about helping you understand what's happening by helping you understand what the ideal person perceives, the person who's the sharpest, right? Sparring has proven that my brain functions the best, my life decisions. And I'm not saying this out of cockiness. God created me. I didn't create myself. But this is the point of reference you need to have. Did you people make mistakes? Yes. Are you still making mistakes? Yes. Because you're cheating me out of my right to lead. And that has everything to do with what I'm going to tell you here. In life, many gang members, for example, they look at society with imperfect brain function. Quite often they have quite a bit of difficulty with their brain activity, their brain function, what have you. And so they go through life, they get slighted, they get offended, and they beat someone up. Maybe they stab them, maybe they shoot them, and they end up in the pen or whatever. They end up getting themselves killed. Now, this is different than when you're the top martial artist. Now, pay close attention here. What an airhead thinks when she gets insulted is different than what a straight killer who's a gang member thinks. And that's different than the ultimate killing machine of all time when it comes to natural combat, which is the pinnacle of being a natural-born killer. Okay? I'm not somebody who's immoral. I have a very strong moral code. In fact, my moral code is the strongest and the most precise in human history. There's no other way to look at it. But what I perceive is something that's on a higher level. My brain works differently. I pick up on things other people don't subconsciously in a way that directs my conscious mind to make the masterful and precise and logical decision. That's why in the face of the storm of the New World Order, I stand firm with moral precision. Whether people fold. They could be special forces, they fold and just follow their special forces training. Police officers. Bodybuilders, MMA fighting, they just follow their learned behavior, their trained behavior. Well, I'm guided by God in moral precision, which is the highest path, and everyone knows it. If you were to say that there's a demon in the Bible that is magically more moral than what he can never be more moral than, which is Christ or God, people would think you're a complete idiot. Because part of that divinity of Christ and God is morality, is that inclination to be moral, is the bearing the fruit of morality. So as you know, there's a lot of jealous Jews and whites and LGBT people throwing fits when I make videos like this. Token minorities who don't like that I'm pointing out that I'm infinitely greater than they are. You've got to see that that's also what contributed to this environment, that jealousy that is rooted not in a response to God and I, but their own insufficiency, their own defectiveness, their own cowardice. They fail in many ways, like narcissists. They don't need to be born as your neighbor or your, future boyfriend or something. to be a narcissistic little bitch. It is in their genes already. It is in their genes already to be a selfish, sniveling fucking coward. That if somebody ideal was to come around, they'd respond like a bitch. And if somebody ideal isn't around, they're still aware that they're a sniveling bitch. And so they respond like Epstein, like a complete pussy, like a fucking coward, like relying on money to feel important, like a fucking bitch. So one of the differences between, people trying to tell me what to do at, say, 14, 16, 19, okay? By 17, I was this straight killer. There wasn't a person that ever lived that I could not maneuver and stab to death. Stab them up in the neck, the stomach, gut them, you name it. Stab them in the eye. Cut off their groins. Okay? Just devastate them. Pin them to a tree with a spear. Straight killer. Not playing one bit. Many gang members and warriors of old could only dream of what I was already at 17 years old. And the government continued to target me as such. It's even right there in the word. As it's a racist country, right? They talk about tar in the second word, baby. You get target. Because they're on some bitch ass, jealous ass, punk ass, sniveling, mad because they're defective type of bitch ass, eugenicist punk shit. While I am the top. Where I surpassed their point where their masculinity stopped, and infinitely so. I am the man. They're not even a man. Now, why is this important? Because I'm trying to help you see to some degree what I felt growing up. Why I chose to respond masterfully in a way that no therapist can teach you. No one in church or the mosque or the synagogues or New Age or no atheist, no scientist could teach you. A way that only the Son of God could teach you. And I'm not trying to compete to be your therapist or some. Everyone on this planet should rally and obey God through me, and I'm not a therapist. Even the word therapist is a play on words for the rapist, because therapy comes from a rape cult system, as I'm sure you're all aware. By now you should know about Zeus and how it connects to Western culture. And Zeus is a deity of rape, and he's the core deity of Western culture. And that culture has spread out through the world and polluted every culture that you can think of on this planet except for one, my personal culture, which is universal, pinpoint, and moral precision. When it comes to the debate of what's right and what's wrong and who should lead, no one has a logical counter-argument. They're like under a blanket shivering and sweating, whimpering and crying, refusing to acknowledge what God set apart to lead. When you're not man enough to acknowledge what God set apart to lead and obey, then you're not a man. Ver and virtue means man, and virtue comes from God. And it's universal. When David fought against Goliath, or when the Israelites in the story, and this is a story, mind you, argued with the tribes around them, they wouldn't argue that, hey, my book says this. That's stupid. No serious warrior accepts that argument. So your book says that, my book says this. So what? Morality had to be universal. Decisions had to be universal. And they had to be what a man could respect universally. And universally, the ideal is the top martial arts. Imagine Tesla sitting next to me, or standing next to me, rather. George Washington, okay, Shaka Zulu, Gandhi, what have you. The one that would come the closest would be Shaka Zulu. Because logically, a warrior goes beyond other things. Exodus 15:3, the Lord is a warrior, the Lord is his name. And we also see the explanation is God is a God of justice. Okay, God is love, what have you. But it doesn't say the Lord is a craftsman or a scientist or a knucklehead or a brute. But we see the Bible talks about brute beasts, and this is a universal idea. That's where they got it from. It's obvious, it's universal. You should inherently know it unless you're defective. And if you're defective, you need to scramble to try to correct yourself to the maximum degree, which requires obeying God through me. I'm the master of masters, and that's why they're changing my voice. I actually had to finish this video the day after I started it because they're interfering. They try to make it so I sound corny or weird or gay or all kinds of things that I'm not. My top martial arts challenge testifies that I'm right. My sound logic testifies that I'm right. It's very straightforward. So today I'm going to look into the Virginia Giuffre suicide and based on the facts that I have, I believe that they drove her to suicide in more than one way, and I believe that technology was used. I believe that they remotely hacked her brain and drove her to suicide. This is how it is these days, right? We're in 2025, almost 2026, not 1825. We're in 2025. People who have degrees in information technology, computer science, what have you, they know that I'm right. There's no other way to look at it. The government hacks people's brains. Okay, even Elon Musk invested in technologies to remotely read the brain, hack the brain, what have you. Okay, artificial intelligence is assisting them. There's no other way to look at this. When we're talking about deep state operations, the CIA, the Mossad, MI5, MI6, whatever, okay, we are talking about brain hacking almost first and foremost, almost every single time, if not every single time. That is the nature of these operations against political dissidents, against people who are in, you might call them sex cults, or, who are being trafficked. I mean, they're really cultures, right? They're cultures with ideas behind them that are rooted in pagan thinking, right? Roman thinking, Greek thinking, right? Fraternities, sororities, okay? Secret societies, right? You look at how the secret societies operate, and you ask yourself, when you know their MO is, their modus, the way they do things, is that they try to make a lot of people look bad and inferior, and they try to make themselves look good, okay? That's why they buy these fancy houses, right? Who needs to live in a mansion worth $10 million or more, right? Why? What do you need that for? You look like an arrogant idiot, right? Because it's like a crazy and narcissistic attempt to look good, why they try to make people look bad, even though time and time again in Hollywood we see, Daniel Mouse from The Devil and Daniel Mouse, he's poor. Luke Skywalker's poor, okay, as a character in the movie, right? We see this idea recurring again and again. Superman is poor as a character in the movie. Okay, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, again and again. Captain America, at least initially, was poor. So why do we see them time and time again trying to pretend that the rich playing games can be seen as ideal? That could magically make them seem to be ideal, because they're crazy, like a cult, Gandalf the Grey, Merlin, Harry Potter, Mickey Mouse, and Fantasia, lunatic, magic wand, religion. So in this video, I'm reaching out to the family of Virginia Giuffre. I'm reaching out to Annie Farmer. I'm reaching out to Lisa Phillips, all the victims of human trafficking, especially of Epstein, to help them understand what's going on. And there's a good chance none of them will ever see this video, but I'm still making it anyway, because it's part of moral repetition. I put it in God's hands. I know there's a lot of Luciferians that like to pretend they're in the Spirit of God. It's very important that you know that I'm the only one who's truly in the Spirit of God. Anything else you see is kind of like residual effects, okay, as their soul is rotten more and more from cheating me out of my right to lead. That is a very core part of this here. So when we're talking about sex cults, we're talking about Eros and Cupid and Aphrodite and Venus, and these are all Greek and Roman deities of erotic desire. Okay, Hermaphroditus, right, in the gender-neutral Baphomet, right, where we get the word hermaphrodite, Hermaphroditus, it's Hermes and Aphrodite together, right? He's a psychopomp. He guides souls into the underworld. He guides people into the underworld psychological construct, right? Aphrodite is very much associated with Psyche, where we get the word psychology, because her son Eros is the one who kind of turns Psyche out, helped put her in a trance with Pan, whose name means all for all the Greco-Roman deities. And this is a part of human trafficking, right? It is, what you might describe as Western sex cult behavior. And it's run mostly by whites, Jews, and LGBT people who are rich. And there's also token minorities helping them out. And there's millions and millions and tens of millions of people all over the world helping them out directly. And millions of others who are kind of confused about what's going on, who work together to target people with the workplace bullying, with the mobbing, with the gang stalking, what have you.